What up, y'all? Back again with another one. We're going to talk about the age-old conversation with slavery. And what I don't get about this whole conversation is that it's not like we're using logic to talk about this stuff. You literally have to believe in this in order for it to be real. There is no proof that any of the slave trade occurred at all. There's no proof that any of the transatlantic slave trade occurred over in America. All the proof that we have and that we always had was word of mouth and belief. That word slave has plagued history for eons. Since I've been around, it ain't been eons, but at the same time, people have talked about this shit over and over and over again. It'll never lose its energy because they don't understand any of the other proof. For instance, they found 1,000-year-old Viking ship off the coast of New England of America, and they've found hundreds of these ships, supposedly dating back to the 800s, not the 1800s, the 800s. But they ain't found one slave ship intact or destroyed or remnants of it at all. But they can find a fully intact Viking ship over 1,000 years old? Said it was buried. So they burying Viking ships now, but they not burying slave ships. They're not preserving the narrative. And it's because you can't preserve something that was never real in the first place. See? And everything else that's preserved, that's considered real, is so fabricated. You mean to tell me Vikings existed and they sailed and plundered and did all of this stuff and had enough ingenuity to bury a whole boat now and preserve it for over 1,000 years? Man, I swear. But here we are, something that supposedly drove the American economy all the way up into the 1700s. We're talking about from the 1400s to the 1700s. This was something that was the biggest economic boost or economic, adventure of any nation. Slavery was considered the largest economic structure known to governments and countries to this date, all out of belief. You mean to tell me that they didn't preserve any of that legacy at all? They didn't. But they preserved some Viking ships for over 1,000 years, and they were able to find them fully intact to this day. Put them on display as well. Not to mention that you let something that's closed up for 100 years, expose it to the fresh air, it instantly starts to decay and rot. But nah, not no Viking ships. They was made special. I mean, so special, they was made better than the damn slave ships. The slave ships were so primitive that they couldn't last as long as a Viking ship that was around 400 years before they were even around. But We supposed to believe that shit, right? Then the history of it, it's cloak and dagger. Think about how hard it would be to convince a person that never heard these stories, was never taught this stuff in school, and you don't have one iota of evidence at all. No real photos, no nothing. And the pictures they do show us is of people over in Africa picking cotton. All the pictures, you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say all the pictures that we ever been shown of plantations and black people picking cotton has been of Africa and Africans picking cotton. Because see, they didn't tell you that Africa was growing cotton as more if not the same amount as America. They didn't tell you that. They made us think that nothing grows in Africa. Africa is barren. So they went over there and got these people by the millions. Well, if it was so barren, how did so many people exist over there for you to come and steal? How was it so, filled with people that you could just go over there and just pick them off the continent with no problem? There was so many of them, but ain't nothing growing over there. It doesn't make any sense, man. It don't make any sense. And ain't nobody talking about this. If they were, this shit would have been out a long time ago. All the pictures that you see on the internet right now of slaves picking cotton, it's not of people over in America. And see, they're going to block this shit. They are going to block this shit. It ain't going to reach nobody. I seen 2 people come into the chat. And guess what? They gone. See, nobody wants to hear the obvious fact that you cannot find or understand any of this information without belief. You cannot. And if they say you can, tell them to prove it. They don't have their documents that they have don't even explain anything. It's all from books, from private organizations and private collectors. All the books that they have in the National Archive, we think that they are books from the government, from actual historical people. It ain't. These books are written by private citizens talking about events that they didn't see happen. That they were just saying, hey, we think this happened. And it just really disturbs me that we would go so far to keep this religion going. I'm just going to flat out say it. Slavery is a product of religion. All of the information that you guys have about slavery and how long it lasted came straight from religion. Came straight from religion. And see, it didn't come from the Bible. Guess where it came from? The Torah, which is not the Bible. I know a lot of people think that it is. It's not the Bible. And see, the reason why they think it is because people steal information, graft it into their culture, and say it's theirs. Come on, man. None of this shit is old. It's all brand fucking new. They didn't tell you that Africa been growing cotton since 500 BC. They didn't tell you that shit, did they? And that they've been selling and cultivating cotton way longer than the United States has. Way longer than America has. Straight up. We didn't sell cotton. We used it for our benefit. These people been selling it internationally. But if you look at our government and listen to what our people say, they tell you, nah, Africa was making nothing. They barely had people over there. but they had enough for us to go over there and take them. That's bullshit, man. And you know the bad thing about it is, ain't nobody gonna bring it up. For instance, look in the background of these slave pictures and look at them trees. Them don't look like American trees in the background. Them don't look like trees that come from this soil. Those are trees from Africa. Look at them closely. Just like the people, you can tell that they don't look like us. But they make us think that, oh, the early black people look just like Africans do. Like we evolved into this new breed of people that have different characteristics, facial characteristics, skin tones than fucking Africa. And that's what boggles me. Ain't nobody put this shit together. Salutes. Ain't nobody put this shit together. But see, you can't just open up and say this to some people because some people have, like I said, this is a religion. Some people have faith, discipline, and sacrifice from this shit that they put in. They put faith in this system. And they've sacrificed years of pushing this fucking lie and propaganda to our own people. And they've sacrificed their family, their livelihood, even their way of life to prove it. Look at all them people that have been going over to Africa to start businesses, black people, to start businesses only to be put out of business, tortured and ran back to America. Look at all the people that's been going through that. It's a shame. Let me check, see if my audio is good. Oh man, what the hell? Bullshit. Let me check to see if my audio is good. All right. It's all right. It's good. But at the same time, while we going through all of this shit, they're steady making up more and more history right now as we speak to try and prove this African out of African shit. None of those pictures of slaves picking cotton is of us. It's all of Africans in Africa picking cotton. They've been pushing these pictures on us for years. People in chains, that's not over here. That's not in America. They've been able to push this shit to us and make it seem like this is what's going on. None of those pictures of slaves picking cotton is of America. All of that shit is of Africa. Look in the background of these pictures at those trees, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Those aren't trees from America. Those are trees from Africa. And see, the whole problem with this is that people think they can just tell these stories and it'll tell itself. It'll prove itself. It doesn't prove itself. And you got people that's not buying that shit no more. They're not buying these stories no more. How you gonna find a 1,000-year-old Viking boat now, not a ship, Viking boat now, buried or fully intact, 1,000 years old? Put the bitch on display, but don't have no remnants, no wreckage of a slave ship that you can prove. It don't make no sense. It's like they working off of two different playbooks. The historians are lost. You got historians over here and scientists over here. You got thousands of year old bones, structures, vessels. But then over here with slavery, we ain't got nothing but word of mouth. We ain't got shit but word of mouth. I visited a museum that talked about slavery one time, and it had chains. And I'm like, them chains ain't no fucking 400 years old. Them chains ain't even 100 years old. Cause see, these guys try to make it seem like shit lasts that long when it's exposed to the environment. And we know that's not the truth. I mean, look at our cars. Look at how we are set up right now with these cars. They don't last no more than 20 years. And the old school cars that we have, they don't last no hundreds of years. The oldest old school car we have goes back to like the 20s or some shit like that. There ain't no old ass cars from the 1700s. Not still around. And if they are, they're replicas. Meaning that all the parts aren't original. Because guess what? Metal rust over time, even aluminum rust. Plastic oxidizes. Fabrics and leathers, they corrode and degrade. So nothing's gonna last hundreds of fucking years. Let's just get that in our minds. Nothing lasts that long on this place that we call Earth. Because of the sheer nature of it is being recycled back into the system that we call the planet. But you got people that have pushed this shit like, oh, it's carved in stone. It's real. Even stone carvings don't last that long. Wind slowly degrades carvings in stone. It's called corrosion. You see what I'm saying? So wind itself can destroy carvings of stone. Just blowing just fresh air on a piece of stone for years will cause those carvings to dull, even erase away after a period of time. So how the fuck they keep these carvings and these hieroglyphs that they say was drawn onto the pyramids and all this shit with fucking inks they made from fruits and berries and bushes and shit? Because they say that we didn't have the technology to make preservatives like we do today that last forever. That's another thing. They can create anything right now in the present, and just because you believe the past, make it proof that the shit in the present that they create right now is real. And see, that's why this is so detrimental. Because if you believe that lie from the past, you'll believe whatever they put out right now in the future. You'll believe anything. And that's what a lot of people are falling for. They lie to black people and white people. Straight up, them pictures that they showed of them slaves is over in Africa. That shit ain't even from here. Ask them to explain that shit. Pull up any slave picture of slaves picking cotton. And ain't none of it here in American soil. I don't give a fuck how many times they say we got plantations down south. That shit is not real. Those photos are from Africa. Africa been growing cotton and been selling it way longer than America has. Way longer. Why they ain't tell us that? Why they ain't been telling us that Africans been cultivating cotton, growing it, and utilizing it as a source of income hundreds of years before America even started international trade like that? Why? Because then it would break down the entire story about these plantations making a living that only can be made over here in America. And see, this is the reason why shit keeps on going the way it goes. We keep turning a blind eye to these fucking little lies that they telling from the past to open the door for these big lies in the present and in the future. Watch. That's what they do. That's what they do. That's how they do it. See? Because they can come and bring you a fucking whole museum about motherfuckers called the Vikings, and this shit is thousands of years old, and they got full replicas of the boats and the ships that they said that they found and they dug up now, but they can't do that for slaves. Can't do that for slavery. You know why? Slavery is such a tricky topic that if they start doing shit like that, people would go there by the thousands to see what they had to show. Yeah, they would make a lot of money up front. But then they would have a lot of fucking, a lot of explanations to make. Like, why y'all posing like this shit in here is from actual slave ships and actual slaves, and ain't nobody got no proof that this shit actually came from there. It will bring up too many questions. That's why they don't do shit like that. That's why Dr. Umar and all them motherfuckers, they tell us when they want to open up a museum and all this shit, can't do it. Why do you think they can't do it? For one, where they gonna solicit the fucking the displays? Where they gonna solicit the models, the findings? Where they gonna solicit that shit from? There is none. And this is what gets me. If there ain't nothing to find, how is there a past to explain? Explain that shit to me. If there's nothing to find, how is there a past to explain? If you ain't got no proof that you can go and find that something happened in the past, how you just make up a fucking story to replace the proof? And then put out this fraudulent ass paperwork that they putting out. Talking about slave schedules, slave advertisements. And this is the shit that gets me, that everybody's buying. Just because it says it's a slave document doesn't mean it's real, that it's authentic. Just because it says it's a slave schedule doesn't mean it's authentic. This shit is coming from books that have been archived. And the only reason why they've been archived is because of the age of the book. Not because of the relevance of the information in it, just because the age of it. That's it. And you can't even trust that shit. Because they say that the book is from the 1800s, but it's been published in the 1900s. Where's the book that was published in the 1800s? You know why they can't show you that book? Because it is probably dry rot. It's probably falling apart. The ink probably faded away. You can't find a book that old without it being destroyed and degraded. Come on, man. I know some of y'all got old fucking yearbooks. If you go and open them up, you see how the pictures and faded them. And it ain't been out in the sun once. It ain't been out in the sun once. Old pictures that you had in frames with glass coverings over them, they starting to fade. That's not because it was an inferior product or the pictures were taken with some bad film. That's because that's the nature of things in this world. You cannot stop shit from being corroded and fucking fading away. You can't stop it. But we'll believe shit has been around for 300-400 years just because they got it in some kind of display or on the internet. And we're not even questioning the fact that we can't even have clothes that last for that long. We can't even have clothes that we bought when we was a kid, that's still around to this day that we can pass on to our kids. These clothes, they fucking dry up, rot, get holes in them. We don't know why the fuck it happens like that, but that's what happens. But we supposed to believe a motherfucker brought thousands, hundreds of thousands of our people from a land across thousands of miles on a damn sailboat. Come on, man. That doesn't make no sense. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. And see, you know who we got to blame for this? Our own people. Our own Greek fraternity, Masonic, religious, governmental people. We got our own people to thank for this shit. because they're the ones that's fighting so hard for this to be true. They're the ones that's trying so desperately to get us to believe it. Then we got the outliers. There's only a few white people, and they're not even white, they Jewish, that's claiming that we're out of our minds for not believing slavery. There's only a few of them. The rest of them know, keep your fucking mouth shut because you can't prove none of this bullshit. But some of them are so invested that they'll go out on a limb to call us a liar when we say our history does not match theirs. That's the whole problem about this shit. And then they'll pull up these pictures of people from another land taking of them doing the same shit that we do over here. That doesn't mean we the same people. That doesn't mean the same shit happened over here. You look at these pictures, man, and you look in the background, and that background scenery does not look like America. I don't give a fuck if they did say it happened in the 1500s. It does not look like the scenery over here in America. We know down south has more trees than just a few here, a few there. No, man, that's over in Africa like that. Over here in America, these places where these plantations are, some of the trees are hundreds of years old, and they've been out there for a long time in bunches. Not just one here, one there. You look in the background of some of our pictures from back in the day, and you'll see fucking forests everywhere around. But you go to Africa, and you're just going to see where these people are growing shit and where a few trees are around. Look at the shit. And the trees do not even look like the trees that are out here in America. And the people don't look like the Americans. The only thing that resembles us over here is the story that we was picking cotton. Salutes. But other than that, you're not going to find any other evidence. But they got fucking whole museums dedicated to the Vikings. They got whole museums. Full displays of full boats from the Viking age, from the 500 BCs. But we ain't got one museum showing no full boat or replica of the boat. You know why? If they make a replica of a slave ship, it would have to be the size of the Titanic to bring over here all them people and be able to sustain them sailing over 3,000 miles across the ocean over a 6 to 7 month period. It would have to be the size of the fucking Titanic. See? But they over here talking about some the Santa Maria and the Pinta and all that shit. Man, it was boats. And they ain't got no fucking proof that they existed. They got drawings. That's it. Salutes. They got drawings and that's it, man. None of this shit is factual. There ain't no laws explaining that black people are slaves. None. They ain't got no laws of that shit. When they say slaves, they don't put in there dark-skinned people. It's just assumed. And that word slave is just assumed that it means that you are under bondage. When we know that they had different terms for occupations back in the day. See, but the only reason why this is capable of happening is because so many of your own people is telling you these stories. And then, if you don't believe them, they're there to discipline you for it. Oh, you don't believe your own history. You a dummy. Make you feel stupid in front of your own people. But then they ain't coming with no proof except for shit that they found on the internet. So it didn't exist until the 1900s. So all the pictures that we see on the internet didn't come around until 1995. Because that's when the internet started. I was here to see the shit. I was using AOL when it first came out with the 1,000-minute fucking disc. None of this shit existed on the internet at all. The archives, none of that shit, all of it came about in the 1900s to 1995, all up until now. So 1995, I was fucking 18. So right now I'm 40. So you mean to tell me this entire history that we supposed to shape our lives around, that we supposed to believe and teach our kids, is only fucking 30-something years old, and they claiming that it's 300 to 400 years old? Come on, man. How stupid can we be? How stupid can we be? We cannot allow this shit to continue to have its credibility the way it has been under our umbrella of understanding and not say nothing about it, because we've been sitting by this entire time. I remember when I was a little kid and the information they taught about slavery was slim to none in school. All they taught about was the Emancipation Proclamation, where Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. All the rest of that shit came from us and the internet. And the internet, man. The Pinta, the Santa Maria, and all that shit, the Batista, all of that shit came from the internet and from us. And these weirdos with their private libraries that they keep because nobody else will publish their shit. I'm telling you, before the internet, you could not publish a book that was talking about fake shit. The publishing industry would not allow it. But when we started self-publishing on the internet, these motherfuckers can publish their own work and have it in their own libraries and give it to these organizations called the suppositories or depositories. And then they solicit it to the archives. If you ask these people at these national archives where they get their information from, where they get their collection from, they'll tell you it comes from private organizations and private collectors. They're not going to tell you this shit was archived by the government. The government has its own separate archival system. And that goes to show you as well that these national archives, if they get their information from private freaking collectors and organizations, that means that some of y'all done got y'all genealogy from there too as well. That's why it's so hard for you to put your information up against somebody else's that comes from the same fucking organization. It's like a fail-safe. Your information cannot be too provable than mine because all of our information come from the same place. These censuses that were collected, if you go into the government census and you look up some of the stuff that we find in these national archives, you won't find it. The national archives, the ones that aren't solely government funded, the ones that aren't solely government controlled, they have archives of shit that we would not see unless we went to their freaking organization and looked for it. Like these pictures that they have on the internet. These pictures that they have on the internet, man, came about since the 1995. Salute, Zay. And the reason why that's significant, because anything before that, you would not have seen it at all. If we didn't have the internet, you wouldn't have any of the images that we have. So what does that mean? Some people will say, well, they was holding on to it in their private freaking collection. No, nigga, that means that it didn't exist. And if it didn't exist, then how are you going to create a history around it? Out of belief, like a religion. That's how they do it, out of belief, like a religion. Look at them pictures of the slaves picking cotton, man, and tell me that those areas that these slaves are picking cotton in resemble areas in America. They don't, man. We don't have farms, right, that's surrounded by just a couple trees that don't have no leaves on them, especially in the time period that they picking fucking cotton. At that time that they picking cotton, the trees got full of leaves on them. They full of leaves, nigga, because we talking about this is the end of summer, beginning of fall that they getting ready to pick this shit. So why would the trees be bare fucking naked if that was in America? It ain't like that, man. It's over in Africa is like that. And you can tell that the people that's out there picking that cotton is African people. So if you put those two understandings together, you come up with one conclusion. that they are taking pictures over in Africa, or they have pictures of Africans picking cotton, and they claiming it is in America, and it's an American black person picking cotton. Because I guarantee you, man, my grandparents don't look like them people that's picking that cotton. And the land down there in Louisiana where I'm from, I ain't gonna have no bare ass trees in fucking the end of summer, the beginning of fall. If anything, the trees, the leaves are starting to turn yellow, not just them fell the fuck off. Them people out there in the mid to end of summer picking cotton. That means the trees should have full of leaves. It's not like that over in Africa. Africa trees stay bare year round. Only certain times them motherfuckers come up with leaves, and that's when they have a real monsoon season. But in the time frame that they picking cotton, them trees should be full of fucking leaves. Because them ain't the trees of America. Them is the trees of Africa. Believe me. Them is African trees. That's African land that's growing that fucking cotton. People don't even believe Africa can grow shit out there. Right now, to this day, they believe these people can't grow nothing. But these people been growing cotton. These people been growing vegetables, fruits for years. At the same time, we've been growing it. We not the fucking grocery store of the world. These people know how to farm their own land. Just like we know how to farm our own land. But the reason why this is such a controversial conversation is because so many of our people believe this shit. And they push it like a religion. They even got certain books that they subscribed it to you to go and read. Like they telling you to go and study the fucking scriptures that they didn't read. And they call them today primary sources. What did they call them back in the day? Books. What did they call them before that? Scripts. They just using the same technique that these preachers used on us all these years to misinterpret the Bible to us, to tell us these lies about the Bible. You cannot go to church and question a pastor in his own community. Just like you can't come on the internet and question a content creator in his own community. Same shit. His loyal followers ain't gonna sit there and let you question and undermine his teachings because they benefit from that. Some people benefit from it financially. Some people benefit from it communally. They ain't got no other place to go besides there. They accept it in these communities on the internet, and they not gonna give that shit up because these communities are like family to them because in real life they don't have one. And that's the crying shame about this shit. Because we'll sit up here and we'll talk about this shit day in and day out, and you'll have the same characters that some of them look like you that will sit up here and try and defame you in front of thousands of people that come across these videos to make you look stupid just to further the narrative. When if all we were looking for was the knowledge, then we would question some of these tactics that they use to come up with the knowledge, the understanding, and the information. Why does all of the laws that pertain to slavery, all of the images that pertain to slavery, all of the important information other than the proclamation, the Emancipation Proclamation, come from private citizens and authors? Why ain't none of this shit coming from the government? The information that you do have from the government is so vague that they leave it up to you to formulate your own conclusion. The Emancipation Proclamation, does it say exactly who this shit is for? And it has questionable title. Emancipation. It's not for adults, it's for kids. Proclamation ain't nothing but a speech or a public speaking. That's what it is. So it's really not a law or an act. It's just a statement made by the president at that time. Just like what else? Just like what else? A State of the Union address? Doesn't that sound familiar? Don't it sound like Trump or one of these presidents out talking at one of their speaking engagements that they get paid for? That's exactly what the Emancipation Proclamation was about. But we, as a people, frame these things and glorify them and keep them on hand as topics that we can talk about so we can make a point about how bad we was treated throughout history, when in actuality, none of that shit ever occurred. The Emancipation Proclamation was about children working, child servants, child labor laws. That's what this shit was about. It wasn't about freeing no fucking slaves. We grown ass motherfuckers. We can't free ourselves from a motherfucker that's holding us bondage unwarrantedly. What do we turn into fucking we turn into zombies when they capture us? As soon as they put the chains on. We can't think for ourselves. We can't contemplate a scheme to get up out of a situation. None of that. And we know it's unlawful. It ain't like you getting picked up by your government's police or law enforcement for a crime or a statute that you violated. That right there seems impossible to get out of too as well, right? But no, we figure out ways to get out of that shit. We get motherfuckers that learn how to get out of jail after being convicted of crimes by their peers. They get out of jail, supposed to be under the jail, supposed to be locked up for life, but they still get out of jail. You mean to tell me the slaves couldn't do that over a 400-year period? They couldn't figure out some kind of way to devise a way to get up out of slavery. No, they had to have some bootleg ass tranny come along and swift them away in the night, and then make up a cool ass story, Underground Railroad. You see what I'm saying? To make you feel like, oh, at least we had some people that knew what they was doing. Some old ass hag gonna come along and rescue thousands of slaves. Get the hell out of here. What's wrong with y'all? What is wrong with y'all? And then when y'all faced with the evidence to prove this shit otherwise, oh, it's like a motherfucker then blasphemed. Blasphemous. This is blasphemy. I can't believe you do not believe the stories and the tales that we were told as children. So you trying to turn a nursery rhyme into a fact. Get the fuck out of here, man. That is so crazy to me that we are going through this shit day in and day out. It should have been a nail in the coffin when they came with all the evidence. But when people are looking at shit that's false, it resonates with them differently on the inside. So they might say out loud, yeah, I believe that. That's fact. But on the inside, they're like, I don't know, this shit is questionable. And that shit grows. And as you can see, it's growing. More people have started to disbelieve this shit. It's like a small fire right now, but eventually it's going to become a roaring, fucking out of control flame. Just like people started to realize that the civil rights movement was bullshit and the people that was running it was bullshit. That all they wanted to do was make money off of us and fuck on us. That's it. That's it. And the same motherfuckers today, they descendants is doing the same thing because they saw grandma and Meemaw prospering off these lies that they made. We got motherfuckers that created whole businesses behind the slave trade. And if you fucking stop the slave trade and say it was all a lie, what they gonna do? Think they gonna rebrand themselves? Hell no, nigga. They gonna go to war over this shit. You talking about taking away their livelihoods? Look at the people that made these bootleg podunk ass fucking museums that the Smithsonian they lying ass won't even fucking endorse. Go look at some of these slave museums and ask them, do the Smithsonian, does National Geographic, or any of these big time fucking archaeologists and museums support them? And what they say, no, we don't get funding from governments. They fucking lying. They get funding because it's a 501c3, first of all, from the government. But that's low level funding. The Smithsonian gets funding from Jerusalem, from Israel, National Geographics, all of these motherfuckers get funding from overseas, Israel, because these people have a stake in this shit. Because if you could disprove our lie, guess what you're going to start doing? Disproving all the lies. And then the Holocaust ain't going to look so relevant, is it? It ain't looking relevant right now. 6 million motherfuckers in 6 years. You can kill 6 million people in 6 years, nigga? You know what kind of factory you have to create? 24 hours a day? I don't think people understand the relevance behind this shit. They giving these people too much credit, man. Ain't no way you gonna bring no 100,000 fucking slaves over in this bitch in no 100 years on those sailboats, and then not even have a remnant of these fucking boats on the water. No sunken ships, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? Not even a plank, not even a damn a cast. None of that shit. Just people. Yeah, we were slaves, and they captured thousands of us off the west coast of Africa and brought us to America to pick cotton. Why? When they was picking fucking cotton over there. Why they just didn't put your dumb ass to work over there in the cotton fields? And sugar cane. They grow all of that shit over there. Who the fuck are we to think that we are just the Garden of Eden and everybody else is just the Nile Desert around this bitch, or Death Valley around it? Come on, man. That don't even make sense. They wouldn't even be able to compete or even be in our economic system if that was that bad. So what I'm saying is this right here. America has been made up into a farce, into a big ass lie by people in the United States government. People that look just like us in the United States government. And if you don't believe it, go and ask them, where are these pictures taken at? You should be able to go and find some of the same areas where these cotton fields that these people out here picking, and look at the picture and look at the land and be able to determine whether or not that's the same place. You can't do that, man. You cannot do that. These people was taking pictures, just like they were showing us back in the day, of starving African kids with bloated bellies and flies all over their face. They did the same thing with that they did with the slavery shit. They went over there and took pictures of these people working in their fields and said this is what they was doing 400 years ago to blacks here in America. Well, they didn't tell you that, but we took these pictures over in Africa. And that Africa's been growing cotton since the AD period, according to our records. But how does that coincide with the records that they have for slaves over here picking cotton? It doesn't. So they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it because it doesn't make good conversation. Because it's going to be a lot of questions instead of a lot of talking. A lot of questions about how in the hell are y'all finding Viking ships from the 500 ADs and 500 BC. My bad. Either way, 500, year 500. They finding whole Viking ships from the year 500, but they can't find one motherfucking slave ship that they supposedly created America with. And we don't even know where Vikings came from. We don't even know where these motherfuckers originated from. They just came out of thin air with Thor. Thor was like, my people, we're going to make these ships so fucking good that they're going to be finding them thousands of years later. But we over here build whole economies, whole fucking continents full of prosperous people off of ships that we can't find one of them. We can't find one. And see, it's being done by your people, because when you start saying that black people own slaves too, look at the pushback you get. Oh, black people didn't own no slaves. When they could not disprove that, they were like, well, black people sold black people. And then when that further went on, then they said, well, if black people own slaves, that means slave trade really happened. No, nigga. No, nigga, that doesn't mean that. That means it's the opposite of that. If black people own slaves, that means that they were employing people of their color. They were employing their own color, their own race of people. That doesn't mean they was whooping them, putting them in chains, locking them away at night, opening them up in the morning, letting them out just to go pick cotton, giving them all the scraps, making them live a subpar life, just so you can live a rich one. No, man. These people hired their own people before they hired anybody else over here in America. Same thing over there in Africa. You think them Africans gonna hire the Afrikaners? They trying to kill them motherfuckers right now. They hired their own people, man. Them people's over there picking cotton on their own land, on their family's land, or for somebody that looked like them who had a business with cotton. Niggas wasn't getting lynched and whipped with whips just to go out there and pick cotton. What is it gonna look like if you whoop a motherfucker with a whip on his naked skin and put him out in that field to pick cotton? Guess what you're gonna find? You think you're gonna find a bunch of cotton picked, huh? You're gonna find a dead motherfucker out there in them cotton fields. He gonna die from the heat, nigga, and them whoopings that you gave him. That's common sense. A motherfucker is not gonna be productive after getting lashed with a fucking bullwhip. Come on, man. But they'll paint this shit. They'll show you a picture of a nigga with 1,000 scars on his back. Don't even know that that's a form of leprosy. That's a form of leprosy that looks like whips and slashes all over your shit. But we'll say, hey, you whipped that shit. Did you know that they used to get rid of boils and tumors by cutting them, by cutting them open, leaving them to open up and drain on their own, which makes scars on their back like that. But you start talking about that, they hit your ass for medical misinformation. You see what I'm saying? So you got to watch what you say on this piece. See, because some of the same people that's pushing these lies and helping your people push these lies in your communities is guarding the fucking gates on these talking platforms. So they only let a couple motherfuckers know you're talking about this shit. And then when they do, they send the motherfuckers your opposition your way. Or you don't get no airplay at all. But the shit's gonna get out because you know what? This shit is not, it's not sitting well with people the way these stories come out. And you know it's a cold day in hell when a white person has to defend your culture. Because if your culture didn't exist, what do you think theirs would? It wouldn't. If our history is a lie, imagine all these white people that came over here. Their history is a lie. A lot of them ain't saying nothing because if they tell the truth and say they never had family members that were slave owners, and you're going to get that 100 times out of 100 times when you talk to white people. None of my people had slaves. None of them. But you'll find one on TV and social media, though. See, because that's the only place you can go and watch a motherfucker tell a lie and nothing happened to him. You get to talking to a motherfucker in real life about slavery, a white person, and they going to start feeling scared. They're not going to tell you, yeah, my people had hundreds of slaves and you a black person asking them that. They're going to feel a certain kind of way about that shit. Like, damn, I'm telling him that my people, put his people in bondage, killed them and all of this shit. Man, these people are not. But they rather sit there and allow the story to go forward because if the story wasn't real, then their story isn't real. And we'll find out for real why they came over here. Because they doing the same thing over here that they was doing over there. Lying about where they from, lying about who they is, creating false narratives for the people around them so they can steal their identities. See? So they can steal their identities. Most of these people over in Europe didn't even speak our language, let alone had the same names as us. How they end up with the same names as us? Y'all already read it. Paper genocide, nigga. You think they keep all their paperwork here in America? When you got people over in another country that need a new identity and all the names is taken, where do you think they're going to get their new names from? From another country, from another land. They're going to claim that they're from another land. And you got people over in Europe with the same names as people over here in America. But our people outnumber their people with the names. You got far and few in between Johnsons over in fucking Europe. You got probably like a handful of them motherfuckers. But you got thousands of niggas over here named Johnsons. Hundreds of thousands. Same thing with Thomas. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. Nathan. These names are from over here. You got few and far in between people. Over there, you got people named like McCormick, McAllister. You know them ain't our fucking names over here. So when they sitting up here talking about y'all got y'all names for Europeans, ask them how many of them Europeans over there got our names versus over here in America. And that should tell you. Quantity proves it. Quantity proves it. And if they've been over there with those same last names, that means that they had enough time to accumulate enough people with those names that would outnumber the motherfuckers over here in America. But it's the opposite. It's the opposite. See, because the names originated here. That's why we have different families with the same names. Over there in Europe, you might find one family with the same name as a nigga over here in America. And nobody else over there share those names. But over here, you can go from one state to the next and you'll find a Johnson. You'll find a Johnson in Texas. You'll find a Johnson in Alabama, in Louisiana, Florida, Maine, Colorado, Washington State, fucking California, Utah. You'll find a Johnson all over America. Go to Scotland. You're going to find one Johnson and he's going to be barely fucking alive. Go to Europe. You're going to find one Johnson. And this nigga gonna be questioning. Gonna be like, hey, we don't know who he come from. We don't know where he come from. He's just a Johnson. Yeah, because that nigga stole that name. Yeah, he did a what they call it, a peace pipe ritual on our ass. The same one that these fucking Indians over here doing on us. These Native Americans are doing. See, because they don't realize that we're not trying to steal something. We're just trying to utilize shit that we created. Indian and these Indian tribes are associations and clubs that we created. And it just went out of style. Just like everything else we create. We constantly creating shit. We constantly creating fads and traditions. And sometimes fads and traditions just go out of style. People stop using them. But when you put a fad and a tradition into law, and that law remains, just because we stopped using it in the past, don't mean that's not our shit that we can't go back to. You see what I'm saying? That's our shit. And just because your pink ass came over here and adopted it, don't mean that you own it or that you created it. It don't mean that. So don't get discouraged. I be trying to tell people, don't get discouraged just because these Native Americans have casinos. That's a job. They work harder than any motherfucker in America. Guess what? They got to protect them donations that you're giving them. They got to have cameras. They got to have security. They got to lock that bitch up. They got to check on it. They got to open it up. They got to cater to you when you come there. That's why they're giving you all them drinks. The money that you spending at these casinos, they compensating you with alcohol. They compensating you with alcohol. They giving you free drinks from the time you get there until the time you fucking leave broke. You just donate it to them. And every now and then, they'll let a scapegoat win some cash just to draw you in. It's like a bait on the hook. Look at this nigga over here. He just won $100,000. They don't realize that he only got 50,000 of that. That the other 50 was just part of the game. The other 50, they gonna say, oh, we need to take that for taxes. Them niggas don't pay taxes. And you don't pay taxes either on gifts, do you? Nobody's researching gifts and estate tax, huh? When you win money at a casino, that's a gift. That's not an earnings. If you file gifts and estate taxes and you say, I don't want to be the one that pay them taxes, you can say, I want to make them the payers of these taxes. They have to pay the taxes. It's a gift. People need to look into that. Having a casino and living in the projects is not fucking wealth. These niggas getting a social security check and they working a job. Yeah, the ones at the top is making money because they part of the nonprofit. They really don't own that shit. They don't own that shit. Nothing you own you don't own shit in a nonprofit. Everything belongs to the damn corporation, to the organization. If you decide one day I'm tired of this shit, I'm leaving, I'm taking what's mine, guess what? You taking the clothes on your motherfucking back. That's it. The money, the cars, the building, The operation, it stays there. It stays there. And if you don't run it, somebody else will be brought in to run it for your bitch ass. So these people sitting up here talking about the Indians, they got this and they got that. All they got in law is the right to gamble. And we created that by creating the Gaming Commission. We created that. We gave them the opportunity to make money because guess what? They don't have no other means of making money. Them niggas ain't got no skills. They just got their citizenship. So all of that shit about them being the code talkers back in the day in the military was a lie. How you gonna join the military and you ain't even a citizen back in the day? They just got their citizenship in the 70s. So how they gonna code talk in the military? If you ain't a citizen, what are you going in the military for? You see what I'm saying? See how a lot of this shit does not fucking compute? It don't compute. And then we come along with these pictures and this false ass history about slavery. And just because a motherfucker 5,000 miles across the ocean is claiming the same thing. And the only reason why I think the Africans are claiming this is because without our connection to the market, they wouldn't have none. They don't have nothing to offer us. See, the only way you can compete in this market if you have something that other people don't have. And Africa don't have nothing that no other nation don't have. So the only way they can get rid of goods and services is through diplomacy. It's through playing nice, saying that we'll take your goods, you take our goods. Well, if Africa was buying as much shit that we buy from other countries, then they would need to be part of the market that we're in. They would need to be. They would be their own market, just like we are our own market. We don't need no other country to sell us anything. Everything they have over in their country, we got here over in abundance. But see, we have what they call creative ingenuity. With creative ingenuity, we could take something as small as a piece of dirt and turn it into fertilizer, turn it into a mineral, turn it into something else because we got ways of treating these primitive items and turning them into valuable technology. You think the lithium mines wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for us? The lithium mines over in Africa, they've been having that shit forever. They've been having lithium mines since we started talking about Africa. But the only reason why they became known is the fact that we was using lithium now more than we were cadmium to make batteries. So now all of a sudden, Africa has something to celebrate. We have lithium mines. We've been having lithium mines for hundreds of years. Okay, well, sell us a couple of your lithium mines or sell us a couple tons of your lithium. Because guess what, Africa, we have lithium mines over here too as well. But we know how hard it is and how time consuming it is to gather this material from the earth that we would rather have somebody else do it for us at a cheaper price. You see what I'm saying? And this is why Africa has they even part of our freaking market. It's because of shit like that. They are willing to go through suffrage to pull minerals and shit out of the ground because they don't have the ingenuity and the mechanical know-how to do it. Them niggas over there still digging mines by pickaxe, shovels, and hand. We over here, we got fucking state-of-the-art equipment using sonic emitters and fucking sound waves and water to fucking take minerals out of the ground by the tons. But that shit takes gas, and it takes people to know how to run this shit. So by the time you get somebody to run that one machine that's going to take as much lithium as the Africans is taking out of the ground in a whole month, they doing it in 2 days. You're going to be paying that motherfucker $100,000+ to run that machine for them 8 hours a day for 30 days. So my whole thing behind this is the whole African scenario and slave scenario is slowly dying. We just can't take our foot off that motherfucker's neck until it gasps its last breath. It's slowly dying. And you got people coming in trying to revive the motherfucker, trying to bring back the African story and the African diaspora. They trying to bring this shit back to build some type of pride in humility. They trying to bring back pride in humiliation. How the fuck you gonna make somebody proud of being a slave? And then when they don't believe it, saying you hate yourself. So the opposite of hating yourself is loving yourself or being proud of yourself. But you want to do it because we hate ourselves because we don't believe in slavery. But you are proud of yourself because you believe in slavery. Nigga, you going through a humiliation ritual and don't even know it. And don't even know it. When I hear these dudes talk about this shit and the ones that bring up how much African proof there is that we were slaves, I be thinking to myself, God damn, they really, really want to demoralize themselves. They really want us to participate in this mass demoralization with them. So I'm going to demoralize myself and say that my people were so dumb, so slow, that a handful of pale-skinned people came over here and they were like, look, niggers, crack, got a whip and a single-shot musket. And that scared all the warriors and motherfucking builders and hunters into falling in line and allowing themselves to be chained. But not just for one day, for a lifetime, nigga. You see how they strip away your pride and ownership? You see how they strip away your ability to say that you're better than that? Because see, the worst thing you can do is to admit it wholeheartedly that you believe this shit. Because now you got to say that if they did it back then, they can do it now. And this is what they want to get to. They want you to be at that point where you can say, if it happened to our people back then, it can happen now. That's what they want you to get to. They're not lying when they say that you are what you eat. It should be you are what you think, not what you eat. Because whatever you eat, you shit out. You are what you think. Because you hold that shit in eternally, internally and eternally. If you believe that your people would have rather live in bondage and in squalor and in filth and work like a dog every day, day in and day out until the day they died, then you're willing to go through anything. You're willing to live anywhere. You're willing to put up with anything. It doesn't matter if you got running water or not. It don't matter if you got electricity or not. It don't matter if you living amongst the animals or living outside from the animals. It don't matter. You're willing to go through that. I'm not willing to go through that because I know better. I know my people wouldn't settle for no shit like that in real life. They would rather die than go through some bullshit like that. And that's the shit that I'm talking about right now because I feel the same fucking way. Come on, man. We better than this. And I hear people talking about this shit long term. We got people 60 years old still talking about this shit. And you mean to tell me you was around before the internet and you believe the stories that they told you about slavery? Just word of mouth. I can see now kids having a hard time, between the two, whether it's a lie or it's the truth, because of all of these visual and audio, stories that are coming out, depictions of this shit, movies. But before that, man, we didn't have all of that shit. You still got people believing that roots, which was debunked years ago, believe that was a historical event, a story that actually happened. Yeah, that believe that shit actually happened. Color Purple, all of that shit, don't know that these is the niggas that's lying to you for profit. And you act like, why would they lie for so long? Why would they lie? Because this is a profession. It's a profession to be a grifter. It's a profession to be a con man. They call them confidence men. It's a professional. It's a profession to be a snake oil salesman, to feed you the same shit that they feed everybody else. Is nothing is individualized. It's all just one shoe fits all. I don't give a fuck if your toes are bigger than his toes. You're gonna force him into that shoe and you're gonna like it. Yeah. Break them in, nigga. Break them shoes in. Yeah, cut your toenails off. You don't need no toenails. We're gonna make sure that this fucking shoe fit. And the pain gonna go away eventually, or you gonna lose your feet. Either way, one of them things gonna happen. So get over it. No, nigga, that's a totally different alternative to any of this shit. I'm an individual. My peoples were individuals, and we ain't like no fucking sheep. We ain't gonna just follow a group of niggas onto no boat because they got spices and colorful rags and they waving them around to us like we some damn moths to a flame. But this is the shit that they make us think. Our own people. And then they go home at night and they sleep like a baby. Because you know why? Because this is a job. A profession that's accepted by everyone is not a con. It's not a con. They didn't taken away all the negativity from telling you a lie nowadays. Now it's just advertising. Now it's just promotion. You see what I'm saying? When a nigga lie about you on the internet, it's publicity. It's bad publicity is just like good publicity. It's putting your name out there. Look at the mentality we have. We'll settle for anything. We'll take anything as long as it gets us where we need to go. We ain't got no pride and ownership to anything. You're going to like it and not own it. You're going to use it and not own it. You see what I'm saying? You're going to lose it and wish you had it, and it never was yours. And this is the shit that they've been pulling on our elderly people for years, making elderly people thinking that the government giving them a welfare or a social security check is a privilege. No, nigga, we pay for that shit. We still paying for that shit. All of these young people that's coming up right now that's working hard, they not paying for that shit. They not paying into social security. Look how they done just took away that privilege from them. They're not paying. They want money right now. They don't care about when they turn 60. Half of them don't even think they're going to even make it to 40. So fuck 50, fuck 60, and damn sure fuck 70. I ain't making it to that age. But when they do, guess what they doing? I can't work no more, so I need to get some subsidies. No, nigga, you need to be paying into that right now because that's your backup plan. That's your rainy day fund. That's when you can't work no more and you need money and the government took your money all them years you was paying taxes. That's why I say fuck a business. Fuck a business. Okay? Fuck a business. All you need to do is work 10 years and your social security is set up for you when you're 60 years old. And believe it or not, niggas is not making enough money to last that long. You see how they devalued $1,000,000? You see how they devalued $1,000,000,000? Being a billionaire is not that difficult no more for these people no more. They just put another zero on that bitch. We don't have real physical money like that no more. It is all transported over to debit and credit. So if you think that these people ain't tracking, that you ain't putting money into your life savings, because that's what Social Security is. Social Security is your life savings. If you think they're not tracking that you ain't putting money into that shit? It ain't like you mailing them dollar bills. That shit's coming straight out of a paycheck. And if you working for yourself and you avoiding paying Social Security, yeah, you working now, but wait until something happens, like getting old, because that's gonna happen regardless. I ain't wishing nothing on you about you getting into no accident or somebody coming along and robbing you. That's not even something that happens to everybody. You know, that's like a 1 in 100 type thing right there. But what's a 100 and a 100 is that you gonna get old, nigga. You gonna get old. And it's not like it's an all of a sudden type of thing where you wake up one day and you 60. No. You're gonna go through all the rigmaroles of 40, of 50, and then when you hit that 60, you still ain't there yet. They keep on pushing it out. You know why they keep pushing it out? Because ain't too many people participate no more. So they gotta make it a longer time frame for you to receive your life savings, because they gotta be able to earn the amount that you need from the interest. Because there's only a few people nowadays. If we're looking at 100 people, and out of those 100 people, probably 40 of them is participating in the life savings thing. The other 60 of them, they scamming, trying to get out of this shit, starting businesses, avoiding paying this shit because they want to spend their money now. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where they're going to take note of people that's not using it, and you ain't going to be able to get no use off of it. I'm telling you, that's what they mean by Social Security is going away. It ain't going away for the people that's participating in it. It's going away for the niggas that think that they're going to get it if they don't participate in it. It's going away. And what do you think they're going to have to do in order to be able to receive that? They're going to have to be the guinea pigs. They're going to have to be the motherfuckers that fall for these rules and these policies that are set up to hinder us. Remember all the motherfuckers that came up to you during COVID and was like, you can't shop here because you ain't wearing a mask, and they ain't got no fucking authority to say that. These are the people that's going to be the guinea pigs because they didn't pay into the system. Them same type of motherfuckers. And they're going to be weaponized against you because they didn't know no better back in the day. They didn't know no better. So now they got to do anything the government say. See, because they not receiving a right. They receiving a privilege. Social Security is not a fucking privilege, man. It's a right. And if you pay for something, that's an investment. You see what I'm saying? But if you ain't investing in it, you shouldn't expect no benefit from it. That's just how it should go. You shouldn't be expecting no fucking benefit if you ain't participating in it. And see, that's another reason why these Africans try so hard and try so desperately to make us believe that we from over there. Because, see, they didn't pay into anything to get into our economy, to get into our world, to practice our culture. They didn't pay anything to get into that. The only payment that they see that they paid was the fact is that we came from them. That's bullshit. If they lose that, then guess what happens? They have no ties to us. So no more privilege. That means you just like every other foreigner that's coming over here trying to grift off us. There's no more fucking we brother. No, we ain't brothers, nigga. We ain't never been brothers. You a foreigner just like these motherfuckers is coming over here, taking our names and taking it back over to Europe. You a foreigner. Now, if you want to be on the same level as us and be our brothers for real, stop fucking scamming on us. Stop lying on us, right? Stop trying to humiliate us on the national stage. Stop trying to tell us we something we not. If that's what you want to be, start on the even playing field, nigga. We just like you, but we different. That's all you got to do. That's all you fucking got to do. You Africans that's over there in Africa that's having such a hard time dealing with the fact that Americans ain't y'all, black Americans ain't y'all, what you should do is you should look at the fact is that how far the fuck away are you from us? You are fucking far away from us. All right, it ain't getting no closer. Pangea is not gonna fucking happen. So come to terms with that. And then two, come to terms with the fact is that y'all don't got no proof. Just like we ain't got no proof that this whole fucking exodus even happened. That the only time people start coming over here in droves, especially people that look like us, is in the modern age. In the modern age. That's the only time. Because, see, they only showed us Ellis Islands with a bunch of Jews and Hispanics and shit. They didn't show you all the niggas that was coming over here from Africa that was talking about brother, brother. You see what they weren't talking about all of that. They're not gonna show you all of that. Because those shows are only for them. The shows that's made for us come out of them fucking churches. And see, when they start putting charlatans, uh, abusers, womanizers, and adulterers, and motherfuckers that just want to make a money off our grift, when they start putting them in there in the church start falling. That's why it ain't worth shit right now today. Church ain't worth shit today. It ain't nothing but a fucking trust fund for motherfuckers that turn on the lights. That's it. Ain't no real knowledge coming up out of there. None. You can ask any of them motherfuckers up there on the front row of them fucking churches, do they have a garden? Are they working the land? Because that's what church is all about. Church is about working the land. That's why it started off as a garden in the story. Now they want to bounce around and talk about homosexuality. They want to bounce around and talk about adultery, sleeping with kids and all that shit. Man, them stories does not mean that shit. Them niggas making that shit up because they can't figure out the real fucking allegory. They can't figure out the real story behind it. You can't figure I was watching a show on TikTok the other day, and a woman was talking about that God killed children. 42 of them. God killed children. So how's your God good? I'm like, bitch, did you even read it? Did you even try to figure it out? Said that Elijah was walking from one town to the other. He was met by a group of children who made fun of him because he didn't have no hair on his head. This is the story now. And in the story, 2 bears came out of the woods. Hold on. Where the fuck in Egypt is there woods? Where the fuck is there a woods in the desert that 2 bears hang out in? And this is what the fuck I be talking about. People cannot wrap their mind around the shit that they see, hear, and say. They can't wrap their mind around it. 2 female bears, now, not a male and a female, 2 fucking dyke bears came out of the woods, nigga, and killed 42 children. Not 40-something children or a group of children. No, exactly 42 children. Mauled them. But it didn't say mauled. It said tears. See? And see, these are the clues that motherfuckers don't understand. First of all, ain't no bears in fucking Egypt, Jerusalem, or none of that bullshit. Ain't no bears out there. Ain't no woods out there for the bears to hang out in. Nigga, it's covered. It's sand everywhere. All right? And the reason why I know this is because in Arizona and Nevada, there ain't no bears around here. You only see bears when you go to California. Away from what? The desert. No fucking bear hanging out in the fucking desert. And in the 42 children. Why was it so significant to talk about 42 children? Right? 42 children. See, if I broke this shit down to you, people ain't gonna really grasp what it means. See, because that's not talking about a man upset and using God's power to kill fucking 42 children. All right? Elijah represents the bears. See, because people don't realize Elijah is a word that's correlating with the solstice or the what do they call them? The damn zodiacs. Elijah is the bear in that story. The bear coincides with the Capricorn, which is like a goat or some shit like that. I know it sounds weird. But in a season, you have 4 seasons. And each one of those seasons has an animal that correlates with them. The Capricorn, which is in the season of the bear, is the winter time. All right? And in the wintertime, you got 3 months. But you got 2 42-day segments. Because in one season, in the wintertime, and in all seasons, you have 48 days of that season. Because you got a 3-day on transition at the beginning and a 3-day transition at the end, which is 6 days. You take 6 days from 90 days, you get what? 84 days. But every season has a peak or a point to which the season can extend or it can fall short. And that's how you get the 42 days. So you got a 42-day period. Now, 2 bears came out, 2 female bears came out and attacked 42 children. Now, if we was looking at this from an allegory standpoint, we would think that they're talking about winter, and they're talking about two halves of a winter season, two 42-day segments in a winter season, two female 42-day segments in a season. They're trying to show you this in an allegorical form because most people think that wintertime is the season of death, but it's not. Wintertime is actually the season of life. In order for a seed to grow, the first thing it has to go through is the frost. Then it goes through the warmth. Then it goes through the water. And then it germinates. Without the frost, the seeds will not germinate from the heat and the water. It will not germinate. It has to go through the frost. That's why when you buy seeds, you know how they get them to the shelves? Guess what they get them to the shelves in? In a refrigerator. They have to transport these seeds in a refrigerated unit for them to simulate the frost from the winter season. So when they had two bears coming out of the woods, that simulated the two segments of the winter season because the bear represents the winter season. And the reason why Elijah has something to do with it is because Elijah represents the winter season. Elijah the bear, or Elijah the Capricorn, which is a goat. And a goat is part of the winter season because Capricorn is. So my thing is about this. If that lady would have known that little bit of information about that, if she would have known anything about gardening, the almanac, the seasons, and how the seasons are split up into two segments, then she would have realized that that story didn't have shit to do with God killing no fucking kids. But since we don't know that, it's easy just to read The Cat in the Hat and to read it out loud to people. And that's the whole fucking shame about this entire shit that we're going through. See? And people have been practicing this type of stuff for years. Think about it. The groundhog. Why would a groundhog come out of the ground and look for a shadow to prove if winter is going to be a long winter or a short winter? Did they ever tell you the time frame in which this groundhog comes up out the ground? They don't tell you that because they don't want to get through the whole fucking explanation of on the 42nd day of winter, the groundhog comes up out of his burrow, out of his little dugout, and if it sees a shadow, you're gonna have an extended 2-week period of winter. That's not saying that winter is gonna just be for another 2 weeks because it's gonna be for the rest of that. The next 42 days is gonna be winter. But are you gonna have an extended winter into spring? Them 2 weeks. The groundhog comes out of the ground 42 days after winter has started. If it sees a shadow, that means that there's no cloud coverage, right? That means that it's still not going into winter. It's still not winter, like the clouds are full of moisture and it could snow and shit. That means there's a break in the system which allows shit to thaw out and be warm. But it still has to finish that next 42 days of winter. So if it sees a shadow, guess what? It's going to add another 2 weeks to that 42 days, which is going to make you have a what? A shorter spring, which is going to mean spring is going to extend off into summer, which is going to make you have what? A shorter summer, which makes summer is going to extend off into fall, which is going to make you have what? A shorter winter, because fall is going to extend off into winter. See, the whole thing about this is it's trying to teach you how to recognize the signs and seasons. See, at the beginning of the book, it told you that the stars were for the signs and seasons. But it just wasn't the stars. It's the animals, it's the environment, it's how plants grow. Everything correlates with that. And if a sign occurs, you need to know what the repercussions or the consequences of that sign. That way you can properly prepare, because everybody harvests their food what? In the fall, right before winter. But if you know that fall is going to be pushed back for 2 weeks, because everything is like a domino effect, if winter is pushed forward 2 weeks, that means that spring is going to be pushed forward 2 weeks, and then that summer is going to be pushed forward 2 weeks, and fall is going to be pushed forward 2 weeks into winter, which means you're going to have a short winter, unless another sign occurs that shows you that winter is going to extend. And if that happens, guess what we have to do? Daylight savings time and leap year. That way we're not creating an extra month of a season. That's why they created this shit. But when you're looking at it, you don't really know that. And people don't pay attention to shit like that because we buy all our food from the grocery store. We don't have to go out hunting and know that if we go out too early in the wintertime, that there's predators out there like bears that aren't fucking hibernating, and they might attack us while we're out there trying to hunt. We don't do that no more. We got cattle. We don't have to worry about the fucking bears no more. But to see, the reason why they put that in there is so if you ever had to go fall back on this knowledge for your survival, you would be able to. You would be able to fall back on this shit. It's a lot, man, that we don't know. And if we just paid attention and really studied, the shit that we call studying ain't nothing but reading. We ain't doing it but reading and listening to other people read. And that's what we call study today. Study does not involve that, man. When you study for a spelling bee, guess what you got to do with the words? You got to not only know how the word sounds, you got to know how to pronounce it. That's 2 things. You got to know how to spell it. That's 3 things. You got to know how the word is used as a verb, noun, adjective, suffix. You got to remember that's 4 things. And then you also got to be able to put the word in a sentence. That's 5 things right there that involve studying for a spelling bee. When we study shit nowadays, we just read it and we get the face value of each word, and that's it. And we're done. We're done. We don't try and find out if the word could be used in different formats, if the word was ever used earlier in a different format. We don't even do that. We don't even know how these words go into a sentence. When you hear a word like tear in a sentence, you think they're talking about tearing a piece of paper. You don't know that means a plant. That tear is a plant. See, because a good farmer knows how to separate the wheat from the tare. See, they don't know shit like that. So they thinking that the bears came out of the woods and teared 42 children, which means mauled 42 children. Man, I don't give a fuck how big these bears is. If you coming out of the woods and you killing 42 of our children, you got 2 parents per children. Guess how many parents you have? Guess how many parents you have? 84 parents. Why is that significant? Because it's just a coincidence that 84 parents also is similar to the 84 days you have in a season. See, this type of study is beyond people that just want to read. See, that because they want a quick answer real quick. This is what we can use. Pull this up, pull that up. But I'm pretty sure 84 fucking people could kill them 2 bears before they killed all 42 of them children. But they didn't say that. They did not say that. Because they don't realize what an allegory is, how an allegory works. When you use a word from back in the day, right, it doesn't mean the same thing as a word today. And anytime you're trying to decipher something that was written a long time ago, you have to use the meaning of that word of that time. You can't just say, well, today it means tear means to tear a piece of paper. So the bear came out the woods and teared a bunch of their asses up. Yep, that's how it happened right there. So there you go. No, nigga, they're talking about tear like a plant. A tear is a weed that grows in amongst tall, upright growing plants like wheat, corn and shit. I can show you guys some tariff today if I go outside. It looks like wheat, but it doesn't grow wheat balls on the end. It looks like a feather at the end, like a cat toy. Like you know how they have the little feather at the end of the stick. It looks just like that, man. That's tariff. And see, tariff is not bad for your plants because guess what? You can mix that in, and it'll make the grain more hardy. You can mix that in, and a lot of them, especially when you growing grain for animal feed, you don't separate the wheat from the tariff. You just grind all that shit. You pick all that shit together and grind it all up because the animals will eat all that shit. But when it comes to growing wheat for bread, you got to separate the wheat from the tariff because the wheat will not grow as hardy and as big with the tariff among it because it's going to leach some of the nutrients away from the wheat. So that's what that story meant. It was talking about the two segments in a winter season. And that two segments is winter because we're talking about the bear. And the bear is the animal of the winter. And there's the animal of spring is the rabbit. The animal of fall is the lion. No, wait, the animal of spring is the rabbit. The animal of summer is the lion, and the animal of fall is the owl. So you got a owl, a lion, a rabbit, and a bear. So when they talking about this stuff in the scriptures, you should note this and recognize that they're not talking about people or they're not talking about human characteristics. They're talking about seasonal things. You see what I'm saying? Why do you think we have a rabbit in the springtime? Easter, right? Right? Why do you think people say that the owls are more prevalent in the wintertime at night? Because it's the cold season. You see what I'm saying? Bears are noted for the wintertime because what do? Hibernate in the wintertime. But sometimes bears wake up early because they used to use the bears instead of the groundhogs to find out if we're going to have a long or short winter. But it became too dangerous. It became too dangerous to follow around fucking bears. And to find a bear's den and the bear wake up to come outside and you watch him. So they went to something smaller that was just like a bear, a groundhog. But the reason why that's so prevalent is because a bear will wake up midway, 42 days into winter, and if there's food available, it's going to be a short winter. But if there's no food available, guess what the bear does? Goes right back to fucking sleep. Can't make it up. Cannot make this shit up. Which means that you're going to have a normal winter. You're not going to have an extended or a short winter. So people need to at least, right, at least try and understand what a study is, because I don't think motherfuckers know what a study is. But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and sign this one off. I know it's been a while since I did a live, and my lives are mostly of me talking. I ain't going to be showing too many pictures because I'm doing it on my cell phone. But at the same time, you guys, stop letting these people fool you. Slavery never occurred over here in America. We didn't pick cotton for the whole world. Everybody picked their own cotton. Okay? And a plantation wasn't nothing but a strip mall. They sold everything there. They didn't just have slaves there picking cotton. They sold produce there, just like we got a farmer's market. They called it a plantation in that time frame. So families would pick their vegetables and they cotton and they fruits, and they would sell them out of the plantation. That's why these places were known. But until next time, guys, I'll holler at y'all. Salutes to the real ones.